How are you doing, Patriots? This is Praying Medic, and this is my latest QAnon video for June 14th. I'm actually going to do several videos today, so keep your eyes open for at least one more today. This one is on FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI attorney Lisa Page. For those of you who are following along at home, you can find Q posts on qanon.pub. You can also find them on a number of other websites. Q has not posted since this post on July 4th. Do not hit the panic button. Everything is okay. It is not unusual for Q to take 10 days at a crack where Q does not post. That is normal. I've seen about every 6 or 7 weeks Q will go silent. So in the meantime, you should be reviewing Q's old posts. Go back to the beginning, look at the ones about Saudi Arabia, look at the ones about, whatever subjects interest you. You can do search if you go to qanon.pub. You can search different topics if you're interested in different things. Review some crumbs. That's what I'm doing. I'm going back and reviewing a lot of the older posts to get kind of a better handle on what we're looking at while Q is on break. Speaking of being on break, I'm going to dive in here in just a minute. I am going to be taking a break from YouTube videos for a few days. I have some personal things I need to take care of. So I probably won't do another video until middle of next week, probably Wednesday. So if Q suddenly starts posting on Sunday or Monday, it may take me until Tuesday or Wednesday to get caught up. So just letting you know ahead of time that I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of videos after today. All right. This is, like I said, topical discussion about Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. I did not watch, I don't know how long was it, 7 or 8 hours of Strzok testifying on Thursday. I woke up, we were watching a little bit of it, Denise and I were in bed, and I just saw this arrogant, snide, smug FBI agent, and I thought, okay, that's all I need to see of that. I did catch some of the clips of Trey Gowdy and Bob Goodlatte and several other people interviewing him. So I got the gist of it. There is a reason why I didn't pay real close attention to the hearing that Strzok was in, and I'm not all that interested in what Congress has to say at this point. And that's because they haven't disclosed anything really important yet. The text that Strzok and Page have sent back and forth that have been released to Congress don't really have any damaging information in them. Aside from a few people like Devin Nunes, most of the people in Congress are relatively in the dark about what's happening. That is what Q has told us. And I'll explain that here in just a few minutes. You'll see why I say that. Q has laid out the relevant facts on all of this, what's going on inside the FBI and the DOJ. In a series of posts, he's named the players, the roles that they play. He's described how the important information is going to be disclosed and the likely timeline of events. It's way too early to be drawing conclusions about how this is going to play out, I would say, other than check out what Q has said, because Q has a pretty good track record. In this post from February, Q said, build a timeline, and it is related to A.S. Anthony Scalia. 187 is the California Penal Code for homicide. So the death of Antonin Scalia, Hillary email investigation pivot points, James Comey, his dismissal letter from President Trump and Rosenstein. Number 2 is Andrew McCabe. PS is Peter Strzok. WL is WikiLeaks Comms. So Q is saying here, build a timeline of these events and look at the key points. And if you're interested in that, I would recommend this website. As a friend of mine has put this together. It's on Conservapedia, which is actually a conservative alternative to Wikipedia. If you go to www.conservapedia.com/Obamagate_timeline, you will find this. And this is a golden little nugget of information. Has a lot of information about things that happened during the Obama administration regarding FISA intelligence, surveillance, what Sally Yates and Clapper and Brennan and Comey were up to, what Admiral Rogers was doing. The timeline progresses forward into the election. There's quite a bit of information here about Strzok and Page and their texts. So if you are a researcher and you're interested in learning about the timeline of events and what some people are calling Spygate, what some people are calling Obamagate, Conservapedia does have a good timeline. All right. On January 27th, Q posted this, brackets 19 marker, what 19 people are currently meeting in a safe room, heavily guarded. Why did everyone leave their phones and all other electronic devices in room 239? Why does it take the information going public before justice is served? That is a really good question. So Q here is asking, what about these people who are meeting probably in a skiff? If you're in a sensitive compartment information room, they make you keep all electronic devices outside so no pictures can be taken, nothing can be recorded. I'm guessing a skiff had been set up and people were looking at highly classified documents. And the question Q is asking here is, why does the public have to know about this information before justice is served? Why is the Democrat Party making every effort to block the release of the FISA classified info? Why did Rod Rosenstein plead to Paul Ryan moments ago to prevent the release of this information? Where is AS, Adam Schiff? 8, fired, X, jailed, possible suicides, plus, TikTok, Q. This is from January, and back then, Q was hinting that there is classified information about the FISA surveillance warrants, about the communication that was going on, that Rod Rosenstein does not want to make public. I suspect that Rosenstein has been threatened by Hillary and her accomplices that if he lets this information out, he is a dead man. So Rosenstein is in a very difficult spot. Why are Democrats making every effort to keep it from being released? Because it will destroy them if this information gets out. But again, this information hasn't been made public yet. None of this has been made public. In fact, a lot of members of Congress haven't even seen this yet, which is why I am not all that excited about what's going on in these congressional hearings, because Congress doesn't yet know the juicy details of what happened with the FISA surveillance, the communications between Loretta Lynch and Hillary and Bill Clinton, all of that. They have no idea what that's all about yet. Q suggested that the information, if it were made public, would cause some of these people to consider suicide rather than being tried for their crimes. Does that sound like what is being revealed in these hearings with Strzok and Page? Not really. So we are at the beginning stages. The classified information has got to be declassified before we're going to learn anything that's significant about what was happening back then. But at some point, those damaging texts and emails are going to be released by the DOJ. Q suggested that there exist messages between FBI agents that are very damaging. I'm just going to read this to you. This was something Q posted on January 22nd. What would happen if text originating from an FBI agent to several internals discussed the assassination possibility of the president or members of his family? What if the text suggests foreign allies were involved? Forget the Russia setup, 1 of 22. This is only the beginning. I'll get to 1 of 22 in just a minute. Be careful what you wish for. As the world turns, could messages such as those be publicly disclosed? What happens to the FBI? What happens to the DOJ? What happens to the special counsel? What happens in general? So Q here is strongly suggesting that there are texts between people inside the FBI. We don't know if it's Comey and McCabe or if it's McCabe and Strzok. We don't know who. But Q is saying that they have texts between people inside the FBI who were discussing the possibility of assassination. When that information comes out, that is going to rock Congress. If you think you've seen Trey Gowdy angry, you haven't seen Trey Gowdy angry. When this comes out, Trey Gowdy is going to freak out, guaranteed. Now, Q also suggested, what about foreign allies being involved? We're going to talk about that in great length here in just a few minutes, but I'll give you a little spoiler here. I think that he's talking about the UK. So what happens to the FBI and the DOJ and the special counsel when we find out that all of this was planned? There was a pretext for the special counsel investigation. They set this whole thing up. What happens then? Every FBI or DOJ case could be challenged. Lawless. Think logically. We haven't started the drops regarding human trafficking and sacrifices yet. Worst. That's the worst of it. That stuff hasn't even started to come out yet. We're just talking about political corruption. Those good who know can't sleep. Those good who know cannot find peace. Those good who know will not rest until those responsible are held accountable. Nobody can possibly imagine the pure evil and corruption out there. Those who you trust are the most guilty of sin. Who are we taught to trust? If you're religious, pray. 60% must remain private, at least for humanity's sake. These people should be hanging. Q. So that is what we're waiting for. That is why I am not terribly excited about these hearings right now, because the really bad stuff has not come out yet. It's waiting, and we're going to see how that's going to come out. Q said, forget the Russia setup. This is only the beginning. What is the Russia setup? Okay, we go to this post that has had people confused as long as Q has dropped it. There's a lot of stuff in here, and I just drew in an orange square, a red square, and then a purple triangle to kind of focus in on Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and they're part of all this for the people on Twitter who are following this. Put in some decodes there in purple in the middle. This is the Russia setup. This is a map, if you will. It's a flow chart, essentially, of how Hillary and Obama and people like George Soros set up the surveillance of Trump to make sure he wouldn't get elected president, and that if he did get elected, that they could get him out of office. This was the setup. And these are the people involved and who paid for it and where everything went to. And if you'd like, I'll just read this to you. 1 of 22. And then we have brackets. DNC breach and dossier. So that's the Democratic National Committee breach, and the dossier information was breached from the DNC emails, and the Steele dossier was created. In brackets DNC, in brackets Seth Rich, SR, in brackets WL, WikiLeaks. Hussein, Obama, then it goes down to DNI, director, that would be James Clapper, director of national intelligence. Clown director, that would be CIA, that would be Brennan. Next down we have class 1 through 12. I don't know who class 1 through 12 is, but it's people, political people involved in the process. Then it goes to Google, down to CrowdStrike, who supposedly examined the server. And that goes back to DNC. Then we have Seth Rich, 187, his murder. MS-13, 2 of them. We have Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's a director of the DNC at the time. Below that, FBI, DOJ assist. They help the process. They, as Sundance and Conservative Trios likes to say, the intelligence laundering. They take the information, they request a FISA warrant. DOJ assists. They get the FISA application filed, they get the warrant, then they go and do the surveillance, and they come back with more information. It is paid for in that little triangle there. The triangle in Q's vernacular represents the rich people who fund all this. George Soros, the Saudis, and the Rothschilds. Below that is Hussein, Obama. Below that is Hillary. Laura Lynch, James Comey, JC, AM is Andrew McCabe, and Peter Strzok. So you see Strzok is down at the bottom of this long list of people. Strzok is a very low-level player. He and Lisa Page are. The reason why the DOJ is giving Strzok and Page a deal is because they are going to rat out Comey, Lynch, McCabe, Hillary, Obama, Brennan, Clapper, and everybody above them. Those people, they're not going to get any deals. Strzok and Page and probably Bill Priestap, they've got the deals, and they're the ones that are turning state's evidence. Below that, you have support. CS is Chuck Schumer, NP is Nancy Pelosi, AS Adam Schiff, and then you have a bunch of Class 1, Class 2, Class 3. I believe those are either representatives or senators who are supporting. Then below that, British Intel. Below that, Hillary campaign pays. Go to the top right. Hillary campaign pays that we left off. DNC pays through Perkins Coie. Then you have Class 1 through 4 pay. So everybody's paying, and they're dumping money into this to allow this to happen. Then you have the Steele dossier, Christopher Steele. You have Podesta, John Podesta probably. You have Eric Holder, Relay, that's Special Russia. How Holder gets involved as a relay with a special counsel related to Russia, I'm not sure. That is an interesting observation by Q, but it wouldn't surprise me that Holder would be involved in this. Class 1 through 9, again, I believe is a group of politicians. Below that, U.S. Senator No Name, that's McCain. U.S. Senator Class 1 and Class 2, 2 other senators. Below that, back to Comey, back to Lynch, back to Obama, FISA 2. So you get a FISA warrant, 2 of them, one on Carter Page, one on Manafort. The deep state put Carter Page and Manafort both into the Trump campaign. They got FISA warrants on them, surveilled them so they could spy on the campaign. Below that, they now have the ability to take the information from surveillance and put it into the presidential daily briefing. Below that, back to McCain, who takes that information, shops it around to BuzzFeed to see if they're interested in publishing it. It goes out to BuzzFeed, it comes to the public narrative, it sets the stage for the future, prevent Trump from being elected or remove him if necessary. Below that, and I think I copied the same thing in there twice when I made this graphic, so sorry about that. So below that is a stringer ramifications, U.S. Intel, legal spy on presidential candidate, president-elect, Republican Congress, Republican senators, news-friendly, etc. Q. So that is, well, maybe I don't have to do a video, decode on 1 of 22, because I guess I just did it. But that's essentially the flow of how they set this whole thing up, to spy on Trump and to remove him from office if he was elected. All right, and if you're interested in another version of that, Sundance at Conservative Treehouse has written about this extensively. And I'm going to show you something real quick. If you look at a number of his articles from the last couple of months, Sundance has taken a lot of those pieces of information, the FISA warrants, the surveillance, the intelligence laundering going through the British intelligence and all of that. He's put that all together into an article you can actually read, and you can understand it. This article is called "The Early 2016 Intelligence Laundry System is a Risk Peter Strzok is Attempting to Conflate." This is an interview where Jim Jordan is questioning Strzok. If you get down here, you'll see that this is kind of the cycle where the FBI used intelligence contractors. They gave them access to the NSA database to pull out information. They gave it to Nellie Orr. They gave it to Fusion GPS and Glenn Simpson. It went to Christopher Steele. It became the dossier. Went back to Bruce Orr, DOJ, back to Peter Strzok, to Stefan Halper, to Peter Strzok, back to Christopher Steele. And then it goes in a circle like this. And Sundance does a really good job of breaking this down. And if you're interested, you might want to check that out. All right, in December of 2017, Q asked researchers about the connection between Peter Strzok and Andrew McCabe and their wives. Have you been watching the news since Friday? And this was on December 4th. Who is Peter Strzok? How was he compromised? How was he paid? So he was compromised and he was paid. Who is Melissa Hodgman? Company, title, date of promotion. Focus on the date. What events regarding Peter Strzok recently occurred that you now know of? Think Hillary emails, Wiener laptop, etc. What about the dates? date of promotion of his wife. How do they stack the deck? Now, here's where I love what Q does. Q will ask you a question and then give you the answers, right? So Q is asking up here at the top, how is Strzok compromised? How is he paid? Down below, Q says, oh, when was his wife promoted? So that's the answer to the question. Who do they want inside government? What are puppets? How do you control a puppet? Well, you put them on strings. You give them something and then you control them. Top right-hand side, number 2 in FBI is, of course, Andrew McCabe and his wife, Jill. Wife connection? What a pattern. Follow the wives. Right, so Jill McCabe has been a politician. She's run for various offices, and she is also connected in this. There's a pattern. They were controlling Strzok and McCabe through the wives. Follow the wives. Keep watching the news this week. Future proves past. Reread Crumbs. That's what we're doing now. Small. How many Dems and Republicans are not seeking re-election? Why? What just passed in the Senate? That was a bill that got rid of the sex accusation slush fund, I believe, back in December. Why? Who is their new handler? Do as you're told. Why is this relevant? Congress has a new handler, and they are doing what they're told. A lot of them have been told, we are going to expose your crimes if you don't get out of Congress now. And a lot of people decided not to run for Congress again this year because they don't want their crimes exposed. Do you not understand the government is being gutted publicly? Bottom, middle, top. Small players first, middle players later, top players at the end. Hussein and Iran connection, bombs away. Merry Christmas. Q. All right. So on October 14th, to answer Q's question, Peter Strzok's wife, Melissa, was promoted to Associate Director of Enforcement at the Securities and Exchange Commission. And this is a little announcement by the SEC. Funny, at the same time, mid-October, that she got promoted, Strzok and McCabe and company were trying hard to close the Hillary email investigation before the election and to prevent anyone at headquarters from finding out that there were a bunch of pissed-off New York field office agents who were trying to get a warrant to search Anthony Weiner's laptop, which had landed in their lap a few weeks earlier. Now, Strzok and McCabe were sitting on this information. They didn't tell Comey about it. And when they did tell Comey at the end of October, he freaked. So I believe Q is suggesting that Strzok's loyalty was secured with his wife's promotion at the Securities and Exchange Commission. In February, and then again in May, Q posted these pictures. This is a February picture, and then Q reposted them in May and said, note the time, note the vehicles on the road, compare against the 2/16/18 photo, which is the one on the right in the pink inset. 6 surveillance value targets, US-UK, UK-US, Q. This is all about somebody's trip to the UK. And if you look at this picture, and if you zoom in, you will eventually see this. And that is a rather striking resemblance of someone who looks like Lisa Page. So I'm just working on the assumption Q says everything has meaning. I believe that the NSA was surveilling these cats when they went to London to do their little spy operations. And John Solomon's article, London Bridges Falling Down, The Curious Origins of the Trump-Russia Collusion, it all goes back to UK, of all places. There's a lot of articles out there that are coming out now where people are putting together the fact that this whole thing originated in the UK. And the UK's intelligence agency is going to have a lot to explain when this is over with. So on June 5th, this is like a month ago, the president tweeted this out. Wow, Strzok and Page, the incompetent and corrupt FBI lovers, have texts referring to a counterintelligence op into the Trump campaign dating all the way back to December of 2015. Spygate is in full force. Is the mainstream media interested yet? Big stuff. So when the president tweeted that, telling everyone that Spygate went back to December 2015, Q posted this. The tweet was meant to provide a time guide. What events occur in December in London? Think Hyde Park. Think previous picture, 2 people, provides a time frame. Well, that is Winter Wonderland, and that is December. And so I think we're getting some info from Q. This is the 2 people that are in the middle of that picture. If you zoom way in on that picture I just showed you, this one, you see these people. And that lady in the middle looks a little bit like Lisa Page. So, again, I think Q has just been suggesting that they have the goods on Page and Strzok. They know where they were, they know what they were doing. All right, Q posted this June 11th. London picks previous, year determined, relevant, 2015, 2016, find the markers, street surroundings and updates, UK SIS, signals intelligence, White House, CIA, FBI, and DOJ. So Q here is telling us we have SIS from the UK, and we have our FBI, DOJ, and CIA involved in this operation. Joint treason. You have a choice. Good SIS agents, the time is now. Contact window is good. Biblical Q. So Q has been telling people who know about this, if they want to get out of it, if they don't want to be prosecuted, then they're good. Now is the time to come forward and start talking. And we have this next. In May, Q explained why U.S. intelligence agents go to London to obtain information. And it's underlined here. Q said, read this below, slowly and carefully, regarding the Five Eyes, which is the intelligence agreement we have between the United States, Canada, UK, New Zealand, and Australia. Why do former dignitaries still hold security clearance? If a U.S. person holding a U.S. security clearance accesses a U.S. database, their activities are logged, flagged, and they're recorded. That same person holding a U.S. security clearance goes to New Zealand, or Canada, or London, or Australia. No logs, no flags, no records. U.S. security clearance authorizes Five Eyes view, and they can take documents with no records. Again, read the above slowly and carefully. Why do we allow former dignitary security clearance? Welcome to the deep state. Future proofs past. Q. So, my understanding is that whoever it was in the FBI and DOJ and probably White House, they went to London. They could get surveillance information on the president, on anybody they wanted to, over there with no records, no logs. No one would ever know what they were doing. The Five Eyes Agreement essentially allows sharing of intelligence between these 5 countries in a way that allows them to circumvent their own surveillance laws. Rather sneaky way of doing it. And Q has suggested that the Five Eyes is in big trouble, that the agreement is going to have to be revamped because it violates surveillance laws, the way that it's being used. The president drew the world's attention to something that just about everybody has forgotten, unless you're following Q. And for the remainder of this year, there is nothing else that is important as this. The president tweeted out, if the FBI or DOJ was infiltrating a campaign for the benefit of another campaign, that's a really big deal. Only the release or review of documents that the House Intelligence Committee, also Senate Judiciary, is asking for can give the conclusive answers, drain the swamp. President is saying that until those documents are released, we are never going to get to the bottom of this. We're never going to know the truth about it. The documents have to be released. Who releases the documents? So, like I said, as long as the most damning emails and texts are being held back by Rod Rosenstein, these hearings are kind of pointless. All it's going to do is further irritate people like Jim Jordan and Louis Gohmert and Goodlatte and Gowdy. It's just getting them upset, which is actually, I think, part of the strategy. I suspect that the president knows that this is frustrating the Freedom Caucus and the people who are trying to help him. And he wants them to be frustrated and he wants them to be angry because he could declassify all those documents if he wanted to. But if he does it, there's going to be a riot because it's going to look like a political hit job on his opponents. So he needs to get them to request it, right? The president tweeted this out on May 2nd, and Q responded to it on May 16th. The president said, a rigged system. They don't want to turn over documents to Congress. What are they afraid of? Why so much redacting? Why such unequal justice? At some point, I will have no choice but to use the powers granted to the presidency and get involved. Right. So Q said, executive order unreleased. Today was a precursor. It must be requested officially first, correct? Q. So this is where this is all going. The president knows at some point he's going to have to get involved, but he can't do it himself. He has to wait for Congress to ask him. Speaking of which, on May 15th, let's see, Q posted this on the 16th. On the 15th, Jim Jordan sent a letter to the president asking for Trump to tell the Attorney General to give them the documents that they've been asking for. So Q said this on the 16th, follow the pen. Is the executive order already written? Letters left visible to match. And this is a link to Jordan's Twitter status. Where we go one, we go all, Q. And yes, Q has previously said that executive order is already signed. It's waiting. It's dated. President is just waiting for the right time to release it so he can declassify all those documents. Sometimes Q will troll the enemies of the president. I posted this on June 10th. Fly, RR, fly. Q has actually said this about the Rothschilds and previously fly, Roths, fly. Failure per the White House instruction and agreement. Declass, public, 3. Executive order dated, official. IG redactions, heavy, removed. Hussein and the White House called tarmac, Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, and then Rosenstein is in hashtags there at the end of that. Somehow Rosenstein is involved in the that whole tarmac meeting thing with Clinton and Lynch. Whether it sounds like he is somehow implicated in that, I don't know how. And then below we have James Comey. Number 2 is McCabe, Loretta Lynch, Bill Priestap, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. Over on the right, 302s, texts, tarmac, FBI, DOJ. Operative insertions, those are Manafort and Page. They were inserted into the Trump campaign. UK, SIS, Signals Intelligence, dark to light. Shall we play a game? You have a choice. Do it is right. FBI agents are willing to testify, more than 24. Next DOJ offer is open 2. Next CIA offer is open 3. Good versus evil, Q. So Q is basically telling the whole deep state, we're going to release the full IG report. We are going to release the information about the tarmac meeting. We're going to release information about your texts and your emails. It's all coming. It's only a matter of time, so you can do it as right or you can pay the consequences down the road. Q said this, one of the more damning texts, has already been given to Congress, and this was on April 26th. Reread about the precursor. They're buying time, national crisis. Some, top eyes on first, are calling for immediate arrest. This is when some of the more damning texts were given to very high up people in Congress. And then Q said cooperating, still have access, controlled. Talking about Page and Strzok and people who are guilty of sending these texts. So Congress was pissed off when they found out what was really going on. A couple of people at the very top. They demanded immediate arrests, and Rosenstein or somebody, whoever's in charge, said no, they're cooperating with the investigation. We have access to them. We're controlling the damage they can do. So Q is saying this is all being kept at the top, chair level plus, so that would be people like Devin Nunes and probably Burr, who's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's a national security issue. POTUS revealed Gmail draft comms, who had access, legal cases are building. You have a voice, be heard. Patience, it isn't always easy, but it's vital to get this right. Q. If you are running out of patience, I will pray for you, but you have got to have patience. They have got to take this thing down. It's a controlled demolition. If they screw this up and do it the wrong way, these people are going to walk. They're not going to be convicted. So they know what they're doing, and they're doing a very controlled prosecution, and we just have to sit there and wait for it to happen. Q posted this, and this was on April 27th. This is basically just to say, look, if the deep state, as some people claim, if the deep state is in control, if Mueller is going to convict the president and get him out of power, if the deep state is running everything, if Sessions is a deep state operative, if everything is going horribly for the president, why is it that all these people were fired and or removed from power in the FBI? James Rubicki, who was chief of staff for Comey, fired. James Baker was a legal counsel for the FBI, top legal counsel, fired. McCabe, gone. Comey, gone. Bill Priestap, cooperating witness. Strzok, cooperating witness. Page, cooperating witness. Power removed for all those people. How are these people removed from power if the deep state is still in control? Some people have complained because Strzok and Page are or were still employed by the Bureau. People are whining because, they're getting their pension, they're still being paid, they shouldn't be, working for the Bureau. Well, if you don't understand how these kind of investigations go, it's understandable that you might be a little angry. Sundance at Conservative Treehouse posted this. When you are cooperating with a DOJ or FBI investigation, an internal investigation involves crime, you're sat down, you are told not to do anything, not to say anything, or discuss anything until you get an attorney. At that time, the attorney is handed a letter from the investigating unit. The letter says, in essence, this is how screwed you are. If you want to be less screwed, you're going to sign this letter and you're going to cooperate and help us. When we don't need you, you're going to sit there. When we do need you, we're going to call you, and you will provide what we need. Any deviation from this agreement lands you in jail for the full term. They are still employed until they are no longer needed. And Q posted this previously a couple weeks ago, said Page and Strzok would be employed until they were no longer needed. When they're no longer needed and escorted out of the building, that means their cooperation with the investigation is over. The only reason they're appearing in front of Congress, I'm guessing, is that they were required to as a part of the deal. I believe the DOJ investigators told them, you're getting a deal here. The rest of these people are going to go up on treason. You can avoid charges of treason if you cooperate. And part of that cooperation is you're going to go in front of Congress. You're going to answer their questions. And some people, have looked at Strzok and his smug, arrogant appearance and say, oh, he's not a cooperating witness. No, he is a cooperating witness. Just because you are a witness in this doesn't mean you become the nicest person in the world. Strzok is kind of an arrogant ass, and that's what you're seeing in his congressional hearing. It doesn't change who he is. He's just an arrogant person. So this came in from Chad Pergram last night. Mark Meadows said that Lisa Page is being a very credible witness, doing her best to help us find the truth, and I think in ways she's been falsely accused of not being willing to cooperate. We've learned evidence that would suggest that she's been willing to help in a spirit of transparency. So she testified yesterday. She's going to testify again on Monday. And it sounds like she's actually helping them get to the bottom of what's going on, because she probably is not as arrogant as Mr. Strzok is. One of the Anons posted a link to this. It was a news article about Strzok's relationship, his friendship with Rudy Contreras, who was a judge in Mike Flynn's case. Contreras was eventually recused by, we suspect, possibly one of the Supreme Court judges told Contreras he was going to be recused in that case because it was an obvious conflict of interest. And in response to that observation, Q posted this. It's part of the insurance policy. Having Strzok be involved and friends with the judge who was overseeing General Flynn's case. Comey release of memos to obtain special counsel, part of the insurance policy. Special counsel attacks president, witch hunt, Special counsel Comey read Rosenstein state that Trump's not under investigation. Flynn pleads guilty to a crime he didn't commit. Strzok interviewed him. Strzok and Page have a relationship with Judge Contreras, who oversaw General Flynn's case. And then down below that, McCabe, number 2, Strzok, S, P is Page. Did they modify the 302s, the FBI reports? What about Fusion GPS? What about the Brits and the raw intel and the dossier and the Five Eyes? What about the DNC rigging the superdelegates and the funding and the voter rolls? More than you can imagine, and it's all part of the insurance policy. It's part of the Russia setup. Why? To cover their illegal acts. Q asks, who is the special counsel targeting? Is the special counsel on Trump's team? Is he off the team? Questions reveal answers. Time will tell. Q. So again, Q has suggested in both directions that Mueller may be on the team, Mueller may not be on the team. He has even suggested that Rosenstein may or may not be on the team. We're not supposed to know right now where those guys are at. On June 26th, Q posted this. On the left-hand side here, we have, Q asks a question, do you believe it's a coincidence that extreme rhetoric is being pushed while at the same time Rosenstein is on the brink of collapse? I did listen enough to the hearing to hear these Democrat people interrupting, point of order, and they're just screaming and hollering at Bob Goodlatte. The interruptions and the hollering and the screaming and all the histrionics, you have to wonder, what are these people afraid of? Why would they not let that hearing just flow the way it's supposed to flow? Every time someone like Gowdy or Louis Gohmert got on a roll, they were interrupting and they were calling point of order and they were just getting in their faces. There's the way that those people were acting, to me, telegraphed how scared they are. The Democrats are freaking out right now because they don't want any of this coming out. So Q said, fine. Rosenstein must either comply with all document demands or face impeachment. It's a two-way failure. If he complies with the document requests, he fails because he implicates himself and he has a known conflict. If he doesn't comply with the document request, he gets impeached, possibly, and removed, and that motion is moving forward in Congress. Why are there no DOJ texts disclosed to the public? Internal DOJ text. What about texts between Rosenstein and Loretta Lynch and Hillary, X to X, other people, Comey to Loretta Lynch 247 times. Loretta Lynch is a key to connecting the White House. Hillary, John Brennan, James Clapper, SP would be Samantha Power, EH is Eric Holder. Why are the James Comey, Andrew McCabe text messages missing? What about the Gmail messages? What about the burner phone messages? What about the call polls? Coming soon to a theater near you. If you're waiting for that stuff to come out, it's coming out. Q said, the Peter Strzok, Lisa Page texts are only scratching the surface. Right. We are so early in this, none of this stuff matters because the big stuff that they don't want us to know about, it is coming. This is just, we're just scratching the surface right now. What about the threats of assassination by FBI agents? They're preparing for this by activating progressive activists. They're drawing a red line. Once the documents are supplied and viewed by Senate and congressional leaders and the public, they lose. Game over. It's a setup. It's a scam. The FISA abuse of executive powers, illegal spying, framing Trump, inserting assets, preventing his election at all costs. Traitors, all they know, we know. But until the public knows, it is contained. No possibility of compromise. Do not underestimate our resolve. We stand at the ready. Q. So, we have a ways to go in this operation. We need to keep our powder dry because we got a long ways to go. A lot more information to come out that Rosenstein is hiding. Q posted this: when the info is released, Rosenstein is no more. When the info is released, there will be no more Russia investigation. It will factually conclude the corrupt nature by which the entire false narrative was created, all to, number one, prevent the election of Trump, number two, delay, shelter, mask, and hide all of their illegal activities by Obama and others during the past 8 years. FBI and DOJ cleanse is vital as the primary. You cannot try these people if you don't get rid of the corruption in the agencies. Huber is coming. These people hate America. Q. And I'm going to close with this. Although these criminals are parading themselves on TV looking as if they don't have a care in the world, they know their days are numbered. They know Trump has all the information on them. They know that Trump has Rogers on his side. He's got General Flynn on his side. Between Admiral Rogers and General Flynn, they have the dirt on everybody. They're scared. Q says, you are safe. They are terrified. Sleep well, Patriot. You elected us to keep you safe. We will not fail. GA, Great Awakening, will change. Great Awakening was a board that Q previously used for private posts on his own board. He is now posting those on Patriots Fight. Q said notifications will be made. Whenever Q changes to a different board, he always lets us know. Where we go one, we go all. Q. So be encouraged, Patriots. Keep us in prayer. Keep Q and the team in prayer. Keep the president in prayer. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sharing this on social media. That is all I have for you on this update. This is Paramedic signing off. I will catch you on the next broadcast.